Hello, and a very warm welcome to all of you listening. Thank you so much for supporting English Easy Peasy.
Yes, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate having you here.
We absolutely do. Now, I want to mention right up front that this episode is part of our listening practice series. We're going to be speaking just a little bit more deliberately today, really enunciating our words.
Right, exactly. So it's perfect if you are working on your English comprehension.
Spot on. But we are still bringing you our signature deep dive format. And today, the title of our episode is Eid Al-Fitr.
Eid Al-Fitr. It is such a massive, globally significant topic.
It really is. And, imagine organizing the biggest party of the year. You have the venue, the food is completely prepped, your family is traveling from out of town, and the excitement is just absolutely palpable.
Oh, I can picture it.
Right. But there is a catch. The bouncer at the door won't let the music start, and the host won't let anyone take a single bite of food until you can tangibly prove that every single person in your neighborhood, especially the poorest among them, has enough to eat today.
Wow. That is a strict rule.
Yeah, you literally are not allowed to begin your own joy until you have guaranteed the dignity of the most vulnerable people around you. That is essentially the mandated starting line for a celebration observed by nearly 2 billion people around the globe.
It is, it's a radical departure from how we typically conceive of a celebration in the modern era. We tend to view holidays as an entitlement of the calendar.
Right, like a date just arrives.
Exactly. A specific date arrives, therefore we throw a party. We just flip a switch. But the framework you just described treats celebration not as a given, but as a profound, interconnected, and, an earned reward.
And that brings us to the core mission for today's deep dive. We are exploring the mechanics of Eid Al-Fitr. Now, if you are listening to this, you have likely heard the word Eid floating around, maybe on the news or from your colleagues.
Oh, for sure. It's one of the most significant days in the Islamic tradition.
It is. But looking at the source material we pulled for today, what struck me isn't just the sheer scale of the celebration, but the intricate engineering of the day itself.
Engineering is a great word for it.
Yeah, it really is a masterclass in balancing intense spiritual reflection with built-in community safety nets and just pure, unadulterated joy. We are going to unpack the core traditions, the specific practices, and the underlying philosophy of a day that functions as the ultimate structured reward.
To truly grasp the psychological weight of Eid al-Fitr, we actually have to begin by looking backward. You cannot understand the explosive release of a compressed spring unless you first examine how tightly it was coiled.
That makes total sense.
Right. The joy of Eid does not exist in a vacuum.
Yeah.
It is the direct reactionary consequence of what comes immediately before it.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can ever get to the feast, we have to talk about the fast. Looking at the timeline in our sources, as reported, Eid al-Fitr is the immediate successor to the month of Ramadan.
The immediate successor, yeah.
And I think there is a common misconception out there that Ramadan is just, skipping lunch. But it is so much more rigorous than that. It is a grueling yet deeply fulfilling 30-day mental and physical boot camp.
Boot camp captures the structured rigor perfectly. Let's dive into the physiological and psychological reality of that month.
Please do.
For 30 days, from the moment the sun rises until it sets, observing Muslims consume absolutely nothing. No food, not a single drop of water.
Not even water. That is intense.
It is. But the physical fasting is merely the outermost layer. The deeper work is the behavioral fasting.
Right. The sources explicitly note that it is an active, conscious effort to become a better person. You are expected to increase your prayers, dedicate significant time to reading the Quran, and critically exercise intense emotional self-control.
Exactly.
You have to practice supreme patience, avoid gossip, and hold your temper, all while operating on a massive caloric deficit. It's 30 days of intentional deprivation.
And that sustained deprivation fundamentally rewires your baseline of perception.
Yeah.
Think about the psychology of abundance. When you have unrestricted access to food and water, they just become invisible to you.
Oh, absolutely. They're just background noise.
Right. But when you voluntarily deny yourself those basic necessities for an entire month during daylight hours, you are essentially turning down the static of constant consumption.
I love that idea of a contrast style. You are turning down the noise so the signal comes through clearer. A glass of tap water is no longer just a beverage. Suddenly, it is a profound blessing.
A simple piece of bread feels like a marvel.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the exact psychological state you arrive at when the new moon is sighted, signaling the end of Ramadan. The transition into Eid Al-Fitr isn't just a shift from hungry to full.
No, not at all. It is a massive, overwhelming wave of gratitude. As reported, the sources frame Eid fundamentally as a day of joy and thankfulness to God for providing the strength to actually complete the fast.
It is the ultimate graduation day at the end of that boot camp. The joy is visceral because it is earned. You have done the grueling internal work, you have felt the pangs of hunger, and now you step into the reward.
It's a beautiful transition.
But, and this is where the sociological structure of the day totally fascinated me, you don't just wake up on Eid morning, roll out of bed, and start immediately gorging on pancakes and throwing confetti.
No, definitely not.
There is a strict sequence of events. There are prerequisites that must happen before the community is officially unleashed to celebrate.
What's fascinating here is how the internal, deeply personal spiritual achievements of the individual during Ramadan are instantly converted into an external social responsibility on the morning of Eid.
The transition isn't just personal, it's communal.
Precisely.
Let's talk about the first major prerequisite. It's called Zakat al-Fitr. Our texts outline this as a very specific mandated charity given directly to the poor and needy.
Yes, it is mandatory.
But the timing is what makes it so striking to me. As reported, this charity must be distributed before the special Eid prayer takes place, before the community gathers, before the real festivities kick off.
I would argue this is one of the most brilliant pieces of social engineering within the entire tradition.
I have to push back a little on the intuitive nature of this, though. Mandating a charitable wealth transfer right when you are hyped up and rushing out the door to a party feels almost jarring to a modern sensibility.
How so?
Well, think about how we usually handle charity in the West. We might attend a formal gala to raise money, or we might write a quiet check at the end of the fiscal year. It's usually compartmentalized. But here, the mandate is thrust right into the middle of your party prep. Why front-load the charity in this specific way?
Because it redefines the very nature of a valid celebration. The source material notes that the explicit purpose of Zakat al-Fitr is so that everyone can enjoy the day. It ensures no one feels hungry or sad while others are rejoicing.
So it's about collective joy.
Exactly. If we look at the sociology, the community is declaring that isolated, private joy is spiritually incomplete.
So, if I am feasting and my neighbor is starving, my feast is essentially broken.
In a sense, yes. By mandating this charity before the morning prayer, the tradition weaves an immediate, unbreakable social safety net. It guarantees a baseline of dignity across the entire community before a single word of communal prayer is uttered.
Wow.
It teaches kindness and generosity, not as lofty, abstract concepts you think about occasionally, but as rigid, actionable prerequisites to your own happiness. You secure the community's joy, and in doing so, you unlock your own.
That reframing changes everything. And it's just one part of the highly intentional morning routine. The individual preparation before leaving the house is also deeply sensory.
Oh, the sunnah, the recommended practices.
Right. Think about the physical shift here. For 30 days, your morning routine has been defined by abstaining. Suddenly, you're hit with a sequence of recommended practices that scream, the paradigm has shifted. First, as reported, you take a purposeful bath in the morning,
washing away the physical fatigue and, symbolically, the spiritual fatigue of the past month's rigor.
Second, you wear your best, cleanest clothes. And third, and this must feel incredibly jarring after a month of fasting, you are actually recommended to eat something before leaving the house for the morning prayer.
It is a definitive physical break from the routine of Ramadan. By consciously eating before the prayer, you are signaling to your own body and mind that the fast is definitively over.
You are obeying the new directive of the day.
Right, which is to celebrate and be nourished.
And there's a beautiful, quiet, historical detail noted in our sources here. As reported, the Prophet Muhammad used to specifically eat dates before heading out to the prayer.
Such a specific mindful action.
It really is. Just the taste of a sweet date in the early morning light. It grounds this massive global modern practice in a quiet tradition spanning over a millennium. It's a full-body sensory alarm clock signaling the transition.
And that transition from the private, quiet nourishment of the home to the public sphere is where the energy of Eid completely transforms. You move from the individual physical preparation into collective, auditory, and spatial synchronization.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the next step is the gathering. And the auditory experience of this is so incredibly striking. Before the actual prayer begins, there is the recitation of the takbir.
The takbir, yes.
The text translates this as the repetition of specific words. As reported, they say, Allah is the greatest. There is no God but Allah. Allah is the greatest. And all praise belongs to Allah.
Those are the words.
Now, this isn't just one person whispering it. Imagine entire neighborhoods, families, communities walking out of their homes, moving toward the prayer site, all rhythmically chanting these same words together.
The psychological function of the takbir is immense. It unifies the mindset of the crowd. You have hundreds, thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of people converging.
Just a massive sea of people.
And they're all vocalizing the exact same phrases of praise and submission to a higher power. It essentially dissolves the individual ego. You are no longer just you going to an event. You become part of a massive rolling wave of collective gratitude.
And then they arrive at the Salat al, the special morning prayer. Now, when most people think of communal prayer, we picture it happening inside a building. You know, a mosque, a church, a temple.
Sure, bounded by walls.
Right. And while many do pray in mosques on Eid, our sources highlight a very specific tradition. As reported, many communities intentionally gather for this prayer in massive, open outdoor areas, parks, empty fields, huge public squares.
Let's consider the spatial dynamics of that choice, because it is deeply deliberate. When you pray inside a building, no matter how grand or beautiful the architecture, there are inherent limits.
There are walls. There are doors.
Exactly. There is a constrained capacity.
Yeah.
But when a community moves their prayer to an open outdoor space, it strips away every physical and architectural barrier.
Put yourself in that crowd for a second. You aren't boxed into a pew or separated by neighborhood lines. You were just standing on the bare earth under an open sky.
That physical reality visually reinforces the concept of absolute, uncontained unity. The open space accommodates everyone without hierarchy. The wealthy business owner, the struggling student, the elderly, the young children.
They're all just standing there together.
Standing shoulder to shoulder in identical straight rows. The erasure of class and social boundaries in that moment is a profoundly leveling experience.
The sources describe the atmosphere during this gathering vividly, noting the intense feelings of unity and happiness. And you can absolutely imagine why. You have all just survived this 30-day crucible together.
You've done the work.
You've ensured the most vulnerable among you are fed. You've chanted together, and now you've prayed together in this massive, barrier-free space. The collective release of tension must be electric.
Oh, absolutely electric.
And the moment the prayer ends, that formal solemnity shatters into pure joy. The formal greeting begins. As reported, Muslims immediately turn to one another, shaking hands, hugging, smiling, and saying Eid Mubarak.
Translating essentially to have a blessed Eid. But as you noted, it is the physicality of the moment that matters.
Right. It's not a polite, distant wave from across the room. It's embracing. It's the breaking of the spiritual focus into interpersonal, highly social celebration.
It is the exact pivot point of the day. The spiritual obligations, the fasting, the mandated charity, the communal prayer are now fulfilled. The day is now permitted to ripple outward.
It moves back into the homes.
Yes. The energy disperses from the massive open field back into the specific neighborhoods, into family homes, and into the intimate fabric of daily life.
This is where the community aspect really takes over the narrative of the day. Our texts describe how the rest of Eid is fundamentally dedicated to social visits.
Visiting is a huge part of it.
People spend hours traveling around, visiting their parents, their extended relatives, their friends, and their neighbors. And there is a very specific theme highlighted during these visits. As reported, it is a designated time for forgiving each other and reconnecting,
Which serves as a necessary psychological reset. Think about the progression. If Ramadan was entirely about resetting your vertical relationship with your Creator and your internal self-discipline, well, the afternoon of Eid is about resetting your horizontal relationships with your fellow human beings.
I see the logic there. You can't truly start a fresh post-Ramadan chapter if you are still dragging around last year's grudges. The celebration structurally requires this clearing of the air.
You visit, you share food, you forgive.
And of course, you absolutely cannot talk about the social joy of Eid without talking about the sheer excitement of the kids.
Developmentally and culturally, children are the center of gravity for the social momentum of the afternoon.
Oh, without a doubt. The sources point out that children love Eid, and there's a highly tangible reason for that. They receive sweets, gifts, and specifically money. This gift is known as idea.
The idea.
It is the ultimate payout. You're wearing brand new clothes, you have an endless supply of sweets, and all your aunts, uncles, and family friends are essentially handing you cash.
But look past the sugar and the money for a second. Sociologically, the idea serves a brilliant function. It permanently embeds a positive emotional association with the faith and the community into the minds of the next generation.
So smart.
These children have just watched their parents endure 30 days of strict discipline and fasting. If that was the only takeaway, the tradition might seem austere. But by immediately following that discipline with immense generosity, love, and tangible gifts on Eid, it creates a lifelong cycle of joyful anticipation. They learn that discipline yields reward.
So we have painted this picture of a massive, euphoric celebration. Huge communal prayers in open fields, hugging strangers, visiting family, feasting on incredible food, kids running around with pockets full of cash.
It sounds pretty unrestrained.
It sounds like a completely unrestrained party, but here's where the sources threw me a curveball. Even in the middle of all this hard-earned joy, there are strict guardrails.
Yes, the concept of the makruh. The actions that are actively discouraged or detested.
Exactly. The texts explicitly instruct that even though Eid is a massive celebration, participants must maintain good manners. As reported, they are specifically told to avoid wasting food, to avoid spending their money in a careless or extravagant way, and to avoid bad behavior.
Those are the boundaries.
So what does this all mean? I'd actually argue that feels like a bit of a buzzkill. You just survived a 30-day fast, you fulfilled all your spiritual and charitable duties, you've earned this party. Why put restrictions on the celebration now? Why care about leftovers today of all days?
This raises an important question about the very nature of how we define joy. What the tradition is enforcing here is the concept of bounded joy. Let's look at the alternative. What inevitably happens when a massive celebration has zero boundaries?
It usually devolves into pure excess. The classic modern mega party often ends with wild overspending, obscene amounts of food thrown in the trash, and people making reckless decisions. The inevitable hangover.
Precisely. Unbounded joy often spirals into gluttony and regret. But Eid al-Fitr is meticulously designed to prevent the celebration from undoing the hard-won work of Ramadan.
Oh, I see.
Think about it. You just spent an entire month learning supreme self-discipline. You trained yourself to control your basest impulses. You fostered deep physical empathy for those who lack food and water.
Right.
If you then spend the day of Eid carelessly tossing lavish amounts of food into the garbage and blowing money recklessly just because you can, well, you have essentially unlearned the lessons of the fast in a single afternoon.
Wow. Okay, that connects the dots perfectly. The discipline of the boot camp isn't just for when you are suffering. It is meant to be applied to times of abundance as well. It's almost harder to be disciplined when you have everything available to you.
It is the ultimate test of the newly acquired discipline. The source material distills this beautifully, noting that the real happiness of Eid stems from faith, family, and good deeds, keeping it a day of gratitude and respect.
So the guardrails don't ruin the fun.
Not at all. The guardrails, the makruh, aren't there to stifle the joy.
Yeah.
They act as a protective perimeter. They ensure that the happiness remains deeply rooted in connection and mindfulness, preventing it from degrading into shallow materialism.
When you look at the entire trajectory we've unpacked today, it truly is a masterpiece of human social and spiritual engineering.
It really is.
You start with the quiet, grueling self-improvement and deprivation of Ramadan. You emerge from that crucible, and before you can even celebrate yourself, you are required to secure the dignity of your poorest neighbors through Zakat al-Fitr.
Social safety net.
Then your morning becomes a sensory awakening. Bathing, new clothes, a taste of a date. You step outside, joining thousands of voices in the takbir, gathering in barrier-free open spaces to physically manifest human equality in prayer.
Uncontained unity.
And finally, you disperse back into your homes for a celebration rich with gifts, forgiveness, and family, but safely grounded by these beautiful boundaries of mindfulness.
It operates as a complete, holistic ecosystem of well-being. It seamlessly addresses the spiritual, the psychological, the social, and the economic needs of both the individual and the collective in one continuous motion.
It's not just a holiday, it's an annual recalibration of an entire society.
That is beautifully said.
Thank you. Now, because this deep dive is a special listening practice episode for our English Easy Peasy learners, we are going to transition into our English vocabulary section.
Yes, this is where we extract some of the more advanced words we just used in our conversation to help you build your vocabulary. We have selected 8 important words today.
Okay, let's start with word number 1, palpable. I'll say it again, palpable.
Palpable means a feeling or atmosphere so strong that it almost feels like you can touch it physically.
Exactly. For example, the excitement before the big party was palpable.
So once more, the word is palpable.
Word number 2 is deprivation. Listen closely. Deprivation.
Deprivation is the lack or denial of something considered to be a basic necessity.
Right. An example sentence would be, during the fast, they experienced voluntary sleep and food deprivation.
Once again, that word is deprivation.
Moving on to word number 3, tangible. Again, that is tangible.
Tangible means something that is real, concrete, or can be physically touched.
Like when we said children receive tangible gifts. An example is, the charity provided tangible benefits to the community.
Let's repeat it. Tangible.
Our 4th word is unadulterated. This is a longer one. Unadulterated.
This simply means pure, complete, and not mixed with any extra elements.
We used it to describe the joy of the holiday. For example, seeing her family after so long brought her unadulterated happiness.
Again, unadulterated.
Word number 5 is mandated. Mandated.
Mandated means officially required or commanded by an authority or a strict rule.
Yes, like the mandated charity before the prayer. An example sentence. The government mandated that all citizens wear seatbelts.
Once more, mandated.
Word number 6 is extravagant. Listen to the sounds. Extravagant.
Extravagant means lacking restraint in spending money or using resources, often in a wasteful way.
We talked about avoiding an extravagant lifestyle. An example is, the billionaire threw an extravagant party that cost millions of dollars.
Let's repeat that. Extravagant.
Next is word number 7, recalibration. Recalibration. Recalibration.
This means to adjust, correct, or reset something carefully.
Like resetting a society. For example, after a stressful year, taking a long vacation was a much-needed recalibration for his mind.
Once again, recalibration.
And our final word, number 8, is intricate. Intricate.
Intricate describes something that is very detailed, complex, and has many connected parts.
Right, the intricate engineering of the day. An example sentence is, the antique clock had an intricate design made of hundreds of tiny gears.
And one last time, intricate.
Excellent. I hope taking the time to slowly pronounce and define these words is helpful for all of you learning English with us. Practice saying them out loud yourself.
It's a great way to improve your fluency. And actually, if we connect everything we've talked about to the bigger picture, there's the profound universal lesson here regarding how we structure our own lives.
Oh, absolutely.
We often operate under the assumption that discipline and joy are opposing forces. We think discipline is the enemy of fun. But Eid Al-Fitr demonstrates that discipline actually creates the capacity for deeper joy.
It gives the joy texture and meaning.
Exactly. And it leaves us with an incredibly provocative thought to mull over regarding our own modern habits. Think about how we consume technology or entertainment today.
We are constantly glued to our screens.
Right. We are constantly binging, constantly seeking the next dopamine hit without any boundaries, which often leaves us feeling empty or anxious. Imagine applying the concept of the Ramadan to Eid pipeline to our digital lives.
Oh, that is an interesting idea.
What if taking a rigorous, structured fast from our screens and constant consumption didn't end with a reckless binge, but culminated in a community-focused, bounded digital Eid? A celebration where we reconnect deeply with those around us, completely present without the excess.
How might that structured contrast cure our modern exhaustion? A bounded joy for the digital age.
Exactly. And that actually brings us to our interactive question for today's episode. We want to hear directly from you, our listeners.
Yes, get your keyboards ready.
Here's the question. Imagine if every modern holiday or celebration required you to personally ensure that someone in need was cared for before you were allowed to begin your own festivities. How do you think that rule would change your personal relationship with joy and celebration?
That is a deep, reflective question. We really encourage you to practice your English writing skills and drop your answers in the comment section below. We read every single one.
We certainly do.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive for English Easy Peasy. It's been an absolute privilege to explore this intricate tradition with you and to unpack the layers of such a beautifully engineered day.
We hope this exploration has given you a new lens through which to view not just the mechanics of Eid al-Fitr, but the very nature of how, why, and when we choose to celebrate.
Before you go, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. Your support is the true fuel for this channel's growth and continuity. It's what allows us to keep making these listening practice episodes for you.
We wish you the absolute best of success in learning English and in life.
Keep practicing, keep listening, and until next time, take care.
Goodbye, everyone.